Story number 1. Whispers of Hollowbrook. 2001, suburban Texas. It was a chilly autumn evening as my best friend, Emily, and I cruised down a dimly lit road, escaping the hustle of our lives. Emily, a journalist for a well-known magazine, and I, a forensic investigator, had taken a much-needed break to explore the outskirts of Texas. Our journey had a way of unfolding events that neither of us could have ever predicted. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the world in a hue of oranges and purples, a blur of fur and eyes darted in front of our car. A wild deer. The car swerved, narrowly avoiding a fatal collision but sending us off the road. The impact was brutal, throwing our belongings everywhere. Shaken, bruised, and in the dark of a Texas wilderness, we decided to find shelter rather than waiting in our damaged vehicle. Hiking through the dense woods, the occasional rustling of leaves and eerie howls reminded us that we were not alone. As we walked, a glowing light in the distance captured our attention, a log cabin settled by a serene mountain river. Approaching cautiously, we found the cabin belonged to a middle-aged man named Samuel, a retired ranger, and his wife, Loretta, a local historian. Welcoming us in, Samuel treated our minor injuries while Loretta brewed tea. The cozy wooden walls, crackling fire, and the couple's hospitality temporarily distracted us from the eeriness of the situation. But it was Halloween night, and as the moon reached its zenith, the true nature of the woods revealed itself. Distorted shadows danced around the cabin. Spectral figures floated near the riverbanks, their mournful wails echoing through the night. Emily and I exchanged uneasy glances, but Loretta's pale face and Samuel's clenched jaw confirmed our worst fears. These weren't mere shadows, they were lost souls. Intrigued, Emily began interviewing Loretta, hoping to learn more about the cabin's history. Loretta hesitated at first but eventually shared a tragic tale from decades ago. A nearby mining disaster had claimed the lives of countless miners. Buried under rock and soil, their souls never found peace. Their anguished spirits now roamed the woods, especially potent on Halloween. Feeling a connection to the tragedy, I decided to investigate further. Using my forensic skills, I sifted through old records, maps, and articles in the cabin. To our horror, we discovered a twisted web of corporate deceit and sabotage, which had been concealed to save the reputation of influential stakeholders. Motivated by the spirit's torment and the need for justice, Emily and I worked through the night, piecing together the narrative. Loretta and Samuel provided invaluable insights, connecting us with survivors and helping to validate our findings. As dawn approached, we had amassed enough evidence to expose the truth. Our efforts had not gone unnoticed. The ghostly apparitions began to fade, their cries turning into whispers of gratitude. We left Hollowbrook Woods that morning, our hearts heavy yet hopeful. The story was subsequently published, rekindling memories and starting a healing process for many families. The restless spirits of the woods had finally found their peace. Even today, when I drive through unfamiliar roads, I can't help but think of that fateful night in 2001. A night that began with a twist of fate and ended with a quest for justice, forever etched in my memories. Story number 2. Echoes of Ravenscroft. 2002, suburban New York. The hum of excitement filled our car as my friends, Mark, a sports jock, Rachel, the school's drama club president, and I, a budding photographer, drove towards the anticipated Halloween party. It was the last year of high school, and we were on top of the world. The forest roads of Ravenscroft were notorious for being tricky. Yet, that night, the danger wasn't the winding paths. As the car headlights pierced the misty darkness, a ghostly apparition appeared before us. It looked like a woman in old-fashioned clothes, her face white, eyes hollow, and her hand reaching out. Panic took over, and Mark swerved, narrowly missing the ghost but crashing the car into a tree. Disoriented and fearful, we grabbed our stuff and decided to search for help or shelter. Guided only by the distant sound of a mountain river, we stumbled upon a secluded log cabin. We didn't realize that this cabin would be the setting for the most chilling night of our lives. As we approached, the silhouette of wild animals shadowed our steps, wolves, perhaps, or maybe something else. A warm light emanated from the cabin's windows, and upon knocking, we were greeted by a kindly old man named Walter, a retired professor, and his daughter, Clara, a librarian in the local town. Clara tended to our minor injuries, wrapping Rachel's sprained ankle, while Walter shared stories of Ravenscroft. The cabin's walls, filled with old photographs and articles, seemed to whisper secrets of the past. The night grew darker, and the haunting began. Figures roamed the grounds, shadows darted across windows, and an eerie lullaby echoed through the trees. Mark, being ever the skeptic, brushed it off as pranks, but when we saw the same ghostly woman from the road, our disbelief waned. Desperate for answers, Rachel and I started probing the cabin's history with Clara. Delving into Ravenscroft's past, we unearthed a horrifying tale. A school bus accident in the 1960s led to the demise of many children. Due to negligence and an attempt to save face, the tragedy was covered up, leaving the souls restless. With my interest in photography, I decided to document the evidence: old photographs, newspaper clippings, and Clara's journals. The weight of the tragedy pressed down on us. Mark, realizing the gravity, apologized for his earlier skepticism and promised to help. By morning, armed with the horrifying truth, we left the cabin. The story eventually made headlines, rekindling old memories and ensuring the victims of Ravenscroft were never forgotten. The town built a memorial, and the restless spirits seemed to find some solace. Looking back, that Halloween night in 2002 changed our lives forever. Ravenscroft, with its chilling history and heart-wrenching tragedy, remains a testament to the importance of truth and memory. Every time Halloween draws near, I'm reminded of the souls we encountered and the secrets we unveiled. Story number 3. The Secrets of Black Pine Forest. 2003, suburban Los Angeles. The golden hues of autumn were beginning to tinge the leaves as my friends and I decided on an impromptu Halloween adventure. Jake, a computer science major, Mia, an art student, Lucas, our musician friend, and I, an anthropology student, packed up Jake's old SUV and set off to explore the outskirts of Los Angeles. Our laughter and music filled the car, the anticipation of the coming night lifting our spirits. But as dusk approached and the roads wound deeper into the black pine forest, an unforeseen interruption sent our night spiraling. Out of the thickening fog, a wild coyote suddenly appeared. Jake swerved hard, causing the car to skid off the road. Dazed and shaken, we assessed the damage. The front of the SUV was battered, and one of the tires had gone flat. Cell reception? Non-existent. The sound of the nearby river guided our steps. We trekked deeper into the woods, the eerie calls of nocturnal creatures following us. Then, like a beacon in the night, we saw it, a rustic log cabin nestled by the river. Approaching cautiously, our presence drew the attention of the residents: Ilera, a reclusive writer, and her brother, Dylan, a cartographer. Their initial hesitation to shelter a group of strangers was soon replaced by compassion, and they let us in. Ilera treated me as minor cuts, while Dylan and Lucas discussed the history of Black Pine Forest. As the night deepened, peculiar things began. Whispered voices, soft footfalls outside, and the undeniable presence of figures cloaked in the shadowy embrace of the trees. As an anthropology student, I was deeply intrigued. With Alara's guidance, I delved into the lore of the land. The tales spoke of a mining disaster in the 1800s that had taken the lives of many, buried alive and forgotten by a world that moved on too quickly. Lucas, with his love for old tunes, began playing a haunting melody that echoed the sorrow of the lost souls. Mia, inspired, sketched the tragic scene while Jake and Dylan began collecting old mining records and maps. The night wore on, and as we pieced together the grim puzzle, we understood that the souls of Black Pine sought acknowledgement, not revenge. They yearned to have their stories told, their existence remembered. Come morning, we left the cabin, hearts heavy with the burden of truth. Mia's sketches, Lucas's song, and the documented evidence became the bedrock for a tribute to the lost miners. The story was eventually shared, and a memorial erected in their honor. Looking back at that Halloween in 2003, Black Pine Forest will forever be etched in my memory. It was a night of revelation, of understanding, and of giving voice to the long-forgotten. Every year, as Halloween approaches, the melodies of Lucas's guitar resonate, reminding me of our duty to the past and the spirits that still roam the Black Pine. Story number 4. Whispers of the Redwood Shadow. 2004, a suburb of San Francisco. I still vividly remember the chill that crept into the air as the evening of Halloween approached. My childhood friend, Clara, and I decided on a spontaneous escape to the outskirts of San Francisco. Driving her old, battered Jeep, we wound through the paths shaded by redwoods and pines, their silhouettes darkening against the twilight. Our conversations and laughter filled the Jeep when, in a heartbeat, a wild deer dashed in front of us. Clara swerved, narrowly avoiding the deer but causing us to crash into a tree. The car's engine hissed and groaned in protest. Stranded, with night drawing close, we grabbed our essentials and began our trek deeper into the woods, seeking shelter. A dim glow in the distance beckoned us, a rustic log cabin by the edge of a tranquil mountain river. However, our path was not without its guardians. We felt watched, the sounds of twigs breaking and soft growls following us. And just when we thought we'd lost our way, the cabin's owner, an old man named Nathaniel, a geologist, emerged from the woods. His sister, Abigail, a historian, was with him. After expressing our predicament, Nathaniel and Abigail kindly offered us refuge for the night. Abigail, with her gentle touch, tended to our minor injuries and shared stories of the land as Nathaniel prepared a warm meal. But as midnight approached, the woods came alive in ways neither Clara nor I could have imagined. Ethereal figures began to drift around the cabin. They moaned, whispered, and sometimes just silently stared with hollow eyes. The weight of Halloween's spectral presence was palpable. Intrigued and horrified, Clara and I approached Abigail. She hesitated, then delved into the history of a nearby mining site from the 19th century. A tunnel collapse had trapped and killed numerous miners. Their bodies were never recovered, and the disaster was hushed up to protect the mining company's reputation. Drawn to the mystery, Clara and I, with Nathaniel's geological maps and Abigail's historical records, began to investigate. We unearthed a conspiracy of silence and found the exact location of the collapsed tunnel. The spirits seemed to watch our every move, their restless energy intensifying as we got closer to the truth. By dawn, with Abigail and Nathaniel's support, we had documented our findings, determined to expose the tragedy and give the lost miners the recognition they deserved. The sun rose, casting a golden glow over the redwoods, and the spectral figures began to fade. But their whispers remained, echoing with gratitude. As we left the cabin, The weight of that Halloween in 2004 stayed with us. The redwood shadows, the lost souls, and the uncovered truths served as a stark reminder of the stories buried beneath our feet, waiting to be told. Story number 5. The Shadows of Everglade Hollow. 2005, a suburb of Miami. The vivid memories of that fateful Halloween night still send shivers down my spine. The excitement was palpable as my friends Sophie, the school's top athlete, Matt, the class genius, and I, an aspiring writer, decided to drive out to the outskirts of Miami for a Halloween campout. Our spirits were high, and the car was filled with our chatter and laughter. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, our world was jolted. Out of the enveloping darkness, a translucent figure dashed across the road. A ghostly apparition. Startled, Matt, who was behind the wheel, swerved violently, causing us to crash into a thicket. Thankfully, the car bore the brunt of the impact, but it was no longer drivable. Determined not to let the night go to waste, and needing shelter, we ventured deeper into the Everglade Hollow woods, guided only by the soft murmurs of a mountain river. Our path was treacherous, with wild animals stalking us from the shadows. It felt as if the woods were alive, watching our every move. Just when hope seemed lost, the silhouette of a log cabin emerged by the riverbank. There, we were met by Eleanor, a botanist researching the unique flora of the Everglades, and her companion, Samuel, a historian with deep knowledge of the region. They ushered us inside, and as Samuel patched up our wounds, Eleanor shared tales of a forgotten tragedy that had occurred decades ago in Everglade Hollow. A devastating hurricane had claimed many lives, but the real horror lay in the stories of those who were never found. Their souls, she whispered, were trapped, forever roaming the woods. The night deepened, and so did the hauntings. Transparent figures floated by the windows. Whispers echoed through the trees. And every so often, a ghostly cry would pierce the silence, a chilling reminder of the Hollow's history. Intrigued and terrified, Matt and I decided to investigate. Using Samuel's historical records and guided by Eleanor's knowledge, we uncovered a chilling tale. The victims of the hurricane had sought refuge in the very cabin we were in, but had been betrayed and left behind. Their souls, unable to find peace, were now bound to Everglade Hollow. As dawn approached, Sophie, Matt, and I knew that we couldn't leave the story untold. With Eleanor and Samuel's help, we documented our findings and pledged to share the truth of Everglade Hollow with the world. Leaving the Hollow that morning, the weight of the night's revelations weighed heavily on us. The spirits of Everglade Hollow, their tragic tale, and our brush with the supernatural became a testament to the eerie magic of Halloween 2005, a tale I would recount for years to come. Story number 6. Echoes of the Ocala Vale. 2006, Orlando suburb. The sky had begun to dress in the fiery shades of an autumn evening when our weekend adventure turned nightmarish. Driving down the meandering paths that led to Ocala National Forest, the plan was simple: spend the night camping under the stars. The participants? Myself, Lily, a passionate art student, Mark, our college's debate champ, Kevin, the aspiring actor, and Jessica, a literature enthusiast. Our animated discussions filled the car when suddenly a large bobcat leaped across our path. Kevin, who was driving, swerved to avoid it, resulting in us crashing into a tree. The car was damaged, and with the cloak of darkness descending upon us, the decision was unanimous: find shelter. Using the faint luminescence from our phones, we stumbled upon an old log cabin nestled by a serene mountain river. Our relief was short-lived, as the sounds of snapping twigs and low growls filled the air. Panic ensued until we were met by the comforting presence of Adrian, a forest ranger, and his wife Helena, a local historian. They quickly ushered us into their home, treating our minor wounds and offering solace with warm drinks. But as the clock ticked towards midnight, the atmosphere grew palpable with tension. Shadows danced outside the window, and mournful whispers drifted with the wind. Eerie apparitions began to appear, their spectral faces marred with pain, serving as chilling reminders of the night's significance. Helena, seeing our distress, began to unfold the history of the Ocala Vale. Decades ago, a massive fire engulfed parts of the forest. Many lost their lives, their spirits trapped, unable to move on due to the tragic nature of their deaths. Their stories, buried under bureaucratic tape, were never brought to light. Intrigued and desperate to help, Jessica and I, with Helena's guidance, began poring over old news clippings and forest records. The true tale was horrifying. The fire had been a result of a mismanaged forest operation, a truth that was subsequently covered up. As dawn approached, armed with our newfound knowledge, we decided to chronicle the events, vowing to bring justice to the lost souls of Ocala. With Adrian and Helena's blessing, we left the cabin, our hearts heavy yet determined. Looking back, that Halloween night in 2006 changed our lives in ways we could never have imagined. The Ocala Vale, with its haunting spirits and suppressed stories, serves as a poignant reminder of the untold tales that linger in the shadows, waiting to be unveiled. Story number 7. The Shadows of Mojave's Past. 2007, Las Vegas suburb. The allure of the untamed wilderness often drew adventurous souls to the outskirts of Las Vegas, beyond its glittering skyline. My friend Neil and I were no different. Seeking a reprieve from the chaos of the city, we decided to venture into the heart of the Mojave Desert on Halloween night. Our journey was filled with excitement as we drove, sharing stories of old legends and eerie tales. But as the indigo shades of night began to settle, a coyote bolted onto the road, its eyes reflecting the car's headlights. Neil, in his attempt to dodge it, swerved violently, causing us to crash into a cactus. The car groaned to a halt, smoke seeping from the hood. Knowing we couldn't stay stranded in the desert, we grabbed our bags and began our search for shelter, following the distant murmurs of a river. As we trudged on, the sounds of nocturnal creatures followed, sending a chill down our spines. Through the dense thicket, we stumbled upon a quaint log cabin by a mountain river. To our relief, we were greeted by Lydia, a retired archaeologist, and her husband, Paul, a historian specializing in local lore. After tending to our injuries, they welcomed us with a warm meal. However, the ambience of the night was far from comforting. As the winds howled and the river whispered, ghostly apparitions began to manifest around the cabin. Their mournful gazes and fleeting whispers were a stark reminder of the date, Halloween. Paul, sensing our unease, delved into a story from the 1920s. A mining expedition had set out in this part of the Mojave, seeking fortune. However, a sudden landslide trapped the miners underground, their bodies never recovered. Rumors circulated that the company responsible had ignored safety protocols, but no proof was ever found. The spirits of those miners, Paul believed, were the very ones haunting the woods. Intrigued and driven by a need for justice, Neil and I, with Lydia's archaeological expertise, set out to investigate the site. Hours of digging and searching led us to an old journal, buried and almost forgotten. The entries confirmed the rumors. The company had knowingly put the miners in danger. By dawn, with the truth in our hands, we felt a sense of closure. The apparitions, though still present, seemed more at peace, their whispers less mournful. Leaving the cabin, the weight of that Halloween night in 2007 stayed with us. The Mojave, with its lost souls and hidden tales, remains a poignant testament to the shadows that lurk just beyond the bright lights of Las Vegas. Story number 8. Specters of Manoa Valley. 2008, a suburb of Honolulu. The lush, tropical landscape of Oahu seemed the perfect backdrop for our Halloween escapade. Jake, my childhood friend, Lila, our school's star singer, Noah, the ever-curious journalist, and I, an amateur photographer, decided to explore the Manoa Valley's verdant depths. The winding roads, bordered by thick canopies, always felt mysterious. But that evening, the atmosphere was especially charged. Our conversations halted abruptly when a misty apparition of a Hawaiian warrior darted in front of our car. Noah, who was driving, lost control and the car skidded off the road. Although no one was seriously hurt, we decided it was best to find shelter for the night. Guided by the distant, soothing hum of a river, we navigated through the woods. But we weren't alone. The rustling leaves and shadows suggested that wild animals were tracking our every step. A warm light in the distance led us to a secluded log cabin. We were cautiously welcomed by its inhabitants, Keanu, an anthropologist studying ancient Hawaiian cultures, and Moana, a local teacher well-versed in the island's folklore. After tending to our minor scrapes, Moana lit a candle and began recounting tales of old Hawaii. She spoke of ancient battles, lost warriors, and sacred grounds. It became evident that the spirit we'd encountered was linked to a tragic event from centuries ago. Embracing our natural curiosity, Noah and I decided to dig deeper. With Keanu's knowledge and Moana's tales as our guide, we unearthed the story of a fierce battle that took place near the river. Many warriors had fallen, and due to a hasty retreat, proper burial rituals weren't observed, causing their spirits to wander restlessly. The night grew colder, and the ethereal cries of the lost warriors echoed in the valley. Ghostly figures, clad in traditional attire, danced around the cabin, their lamentations a haunting reminder of the past. As dawn broke, Moana performed a traditional ali chant to appease the spirits. We felt a palpable shift in the atmosphere, a lightness that wasn't there before. Our journey back to Honolulu was reflective. The haunting beauty of Manoa Valley, the spirits of warriors lost in time, and the sacred traditions of the land left an indelible mark on our souls. Looking back, that Halloween night in 2008 was a stark reminder of the thin veil separating the living from the departed, especially in a land as spiritually charged as Hawaii. The mysteries of Manoa Valley and its restless spirits will forever remain etched in my memory. Story number 9. Whispers of the Potomac Ghosts. 2009, suburban Washington, D.C. My time at Georgetown had been relatively uneventful until that night. Sarah, an archaeology major, Tom, the future politician, Mia, an aspiring filmmaker, I, a budding journalist, and the vast forests surrounding D.C. made for an adventurous setting. The sun was saying its last goodbye when a sudden blur, a raccoon, maybe, darted in front of our car. Tom, who had been enthusiastically sharing a story, swerved instinctively. Our car skidded to a stop, damaged, but thankfully we were unharmed. Navigating with our phone torches, we stumbled upon an inviting log cabin by a serene mountain river. The woods around us seemed to whisper tales of old, and shadows played tricks on our eyes. Our presence at the cabin was soon acknowledged by its residents, Victor, an historian researching the Civil War, and his wife, Eliza, a local librarian. Their warm welcome provided solace to our shaken spirits. Yet, as darkness deepened, so did the mysteries of the cabin. Hollow footsteps, muted whispers, and fleeting apparitions surrounded us. The reflection of Civil War soldiers, their uniforms torn and bloodied, could be seen in the water of the river. Each ghostly presence echoed the events of a past Halloween night. Curiosity overpowered our fear. Victor, with a deep sigh, delved into the history of the area. A long-forgotten battle, the Battle of Potomac Hollow, had taken place on this very ground. Overwhelmed and cornered, many soldiers had met their end in the cabin and nearby river. Their final moments were filled with terror, and their spirits seemed unable to move on. Sarah, with her knowledge of relics, Mia, with her camera, and I began our midnight investigation. Delving into old maps, letters, and Eliza's books, we pieced together a heart-wrenching tale of betrayal and loss. The soldiers, it seemed, were not just victims of the opposing army but also of their commanding officer, who had abandoned them in their hour of need. By dawn, using a blend of history and ritual, Victor and Eliza guided us in paying respects to the fallen, hoping to give them some peace. As the first light of morning painted the sky, the shadows and whispers faded, replaced by the regular sounds of the waking forest. The weight of that Halloween night in 2009, however, remained with us. Returning to Georgetown, the memories of the Potomac ghosts and their untold stories became a reminder of the past's indelible marks, forever shaping the present. The cabin, the woods, and the lost souls of the Civil War taught us that sometimes, history refuses to be forgotten. Story number 10. Tales from Des Plaines Depths. 2010, a suburb of Chicago. It was one of those spontaneous trips that my partner, Grace, and I loved taking. Driving through the suburbs of Chicago, our conversation flowed with ease, the music of old classics filling our car. Our peaceful drive was interrupted when a deer, its eyes wide and alarmed, darted onto the road. Instinctively, I swerved, causing us to crash into a roadside tree. The front bumper was dented, and the headlights shattered. With the onset of night and the unfamiliarity of the location, we decided to find shelter. We journeyed deeper into the woods, the cacophony of crickets and owls guiding our way, until a faint glow beckoned us. It was a log cabin by a river that seemed to murmur tales of old. The door opened to reveal an elderly couple, Iris and Samuel. Iris was a retired nurse, and Samuel, a historian, specialized in local legends. The couple, after ensuring our well-being, settled us by the fireplace, warming our souls with hot cocoa and tales. However, as the witching hour approached, the stories took a darker turn. The woods, as Samuel narrated, were once the scene of a tragic train derailment in the early 1900s. Many passengers lost their lives, their bodies never recovered, and their spirits rumored to still wander, seeking closure. The truth of Samuel's tales became hauntingly clear as night deepened. Ethereal apparitions, the sounds of distant train whistles, and mournful cries surrounded the cabin. Their spectral faces, contorted in pain and anguish, gazed at us, reminding us of the very real tragedy that had occurred. Driven by a mix of fear and determination, Grace and I, aided by Samuel's historical expertise, decided to delve deeper into the tragedy. We unearthed old newspapers, journals, and letters that spoke of the event. A series of negligent decisions by the train company had led to the disaster. By dawn, with the spirits still lingering, Iris suggested a prayer ceremony. We, along with the elderly couple, paid our respects, lighting candles by the river and saying prayers for the lost souls. Leaving the cabin, the weight of that Halloween night in 2010 remained heavy in our hearts. The Des Plaines woods, with its lingering spirits and suppressed stories, became a constant reminder of the past's presence, especially in places where justice was never served. The faces of the lost souls of the derailment forever etched in our memories, whispering the tales of Des Plaines Depths. Story number 11. Echoes of the Revolutionary Shadows. 2011, suburban Boston. The Boston suburbs, with their rich history, seemed the ideal location for our senior year project. Jenny, the historian, Alex, the tech geek, Rachel, the drama club president, and I, an aspiring filmmaker, decided to capture the essence of Halloween in these historically charged woods. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the road. Our discussions on the Revolutionary War were suddenly interrupted when the ethereal silhouette of a colonial soldier appeared. Alex, in sheer panic, swerved the car to the side. With the vehicle rendered undrivable, and darkness descending, we sought refuge. A dim light led us to a rustic log cabin nestled by a serene river. As we approached, soft growls and rustling hinted at the presence of wild animals. At the cabin, we were greeted by Robert, a retired professor with a passion for colonial history, and his wife Emily, a genealogist. Once inside, over hot cider and the comforting warmth of the fireplace, our discussions with our hosts turned to the history of the area. The cabin, it seemed, was a relic from revolutionary times and had seen its share of tragedies. As midnight approached, the serenity was disrupted. Spectral figures in colonial attire, bearing wounds from battles long ago, started appearing around the cabin. Their hollow eyes, filled with sadness and pain, gazed at us. The whispers of lost soldiers, talking about the betrayal of their own kind, filled the air. With Robert's guidance and Emily's genealogical records, we unearthed a heart-wrenching tale. A group of colonial soldiers, falsely accused of treason, were executed near the river. Their spirits, harboring resentment and seeking justice, haunted these woods. In a bid to appease them, Rachel, drawing on her drama skills, orchestrated a reenactment of a proper trial, presenting the soldiers' case and declaring them innocent. Jenny and I documented the entire experience, capturing the gradual calming of the spirits. By sunrise, the ghosts seemed pacified. The woods felt different, lighter, free from the weight of unresolved history. Our drive back to school, once the car was repaired, was filled with introspection. The Halloween of 2011 wasn't just about costumes and candy. It was a deep dive into the pain of the past, a lesson in empathy, and a testament to the haunting power of unresolved tragedies. The ghosts of suburban Boston had shared their tale, and we were the chosen listeners. Story number 12. Shadows of the Liberty Bell. 2012, suburban Philadelphia. That autumn in Philadelphia was notably chilly. The city, renowned for its American Revolution history, was where Martin, the history buff, Laura, the fearless leader, Anna, the quiet bookworm, Luke, the skeptic, and myself, an amateur photographer, decided to spend our midterm break. Little did we know that our simple adventure would change our lives forever. While navigating the woods, an owl's unexpected flight across our path caused Martin to swerve the car abruptly, leaving us with a punctured tire and night rapidly approaching. The dense woods ahead seemed to beckon us, and we sought refuge, guided only by the soft moonlight. Amidst the trees stood a rustic log cabin, the nearby river's murmurs echoing tales of old. Frederick, a retired teacher with an obsession for Philadelphia's revolutionary history, and his wife, Clara, a medium, warmly invited us in. As we settled, the conversation naturally gravitated towards the area's history. Clara's tales, however, were of a different kind. Spirits of those wrongfully accused and executed during the witch trials were rumored to haunt these woods. Night deepened, and so did the strangeness around us. The wind carried hushed conversations, and ethereal figures roamed the woods. One apparition, a woman in colonial attire, pointed accusingly at an old tree, the Hanging Tree, as Frederick somberly named it. Curiosity overpowering fear, we decided to delve deeper. Using Anna's books and Frederick's extensive documents, we uncovered a dark chapter. Innocent souls had been wrongfully executed, their spirits still yearning for justice. With Clara's medium skills, we communicated with the spirits. Their demand was simple, an acknowledgement of the injustice they suffered. Using the cabin as a makeshift courtroom, we reenacted a trial, ultimately declaring their innocence. As dawn broke, a palpable change in the atmosphere occurred. The woods seemed less dense, the river's murmur more cheerful. The spirits, it seemed, had finally found peace. That Halloween night in 2012 wasn't just about ghost stories and scares, it was an immersion into the painful past, a lesson in empathy, and a testimony to the wounds that history often inflicts. The shadows of the Liberty Bell weren't just in Philadelphia's streets but also in its haunted woods, waiting for their tales to be told. Story number 13. The Haunting of Lone Star Hollows. 2013, suburban Dallas. Dallas, a symbol of modernity juxtaposed with rustic charm, was the destination we, Sarah and I, chose for our vacation. As tourists eager to blend history with adventure, we took the path less traveled. It would soon become an odyssey of terrifying revelations. Our journey was abruptly halted when a frantic coyote darted across the road. Despite our relief from the near miss, our car was left immobilized. As the dense Texas twilight enveloped the sky, we ventured into the woods, hoping to find some shelter. Through the veil of darkness, a dim light revealed a log cabin nestled by a murmuring river. Its tranquility was deceptive. As we neared, we could feel the heaviness in the atmosphere. Welcomed by John, an old historian, and his sister, Mary, a local journalist, we were grateful for the sanctuary they offered. Sitting by the fireplace, John regaled tales of a bygone era, but one in particular sent shivers down our spine. A mining disaster decades ago had trapped numerous souls in a nearby cavern, the entrance of which lay not far from the cabin. Mary added that some locals believed the spirits of those miners haunted the woods, forever resentful of their untimely demise. With the river's gentle hum as a backdrop, nocturnal whispers filled the night. Shadows, reflecting the figures of miners with dim lanterns, flitted around the woods. The clinking of tools and soft sobbing grew more pronounced, confirming the legends were real. Compelled by empathy and a thirst for truth, Mary, with her investigative prowess, helped us dig deeper. Through articles in John's collected memoirs, we unearthed the conspiracy. The mine's collapse wasn't accidental but a result of corporate greed and negligence. Acknowledging the spirits' agony in their quest for justice, Sarah, drawing from her experience as a documentary filmmaker, decided to record a message with John's help, pledging to expose the truth to the world. As dawn approached, a profound calm enveloped Lone Star Hollows. The spirits, though never to return to life, found a modicum of peace in being recognized. The Halloween of 2013 wasn't just about legends and lore, it was an awakening. The ghosts of suburban Dallas were not mere tales but souls trapped between the pages of forgotten history. And sometimes, all it takes to free them is to listen. Story number 14. The Shadows of Phoenix Past. 2014, a suburb of Phoenix. The allure of Halloween had always been the intertwining of thrill and fear. My friends, Emma, Jake, and Mia, and I had always been a tight-knit group since freshman year. We were the curious kind, always looking for an adventure. That Halloween night was no different, but none of us anticipated the horror that awaited. Driving in Jake's old sedan, we joked about haunted legends when an apparition abruptly crossed our path. Its ethereal form momentarily paralyzed us, but Jake's reflexes jerked the car to the side. The ghostly apparition vanished, leaving behind a shaking group of teenagers and a slightly damaged car. As the darkness became denser, we stumbled upon a log cabin nestled near a serene mountain river. The solitude was both inviting and ominous. As we approached, wild coyotes circled us, their eyes gleaming ominously in the dim light. But their aggression faded when an elderly man, Mr. Crawford, a retired historian, appeared from the cabin's doorway. With him was Mrs. Allen, a local librarian with a penchant for mysteries. Welcomed into their home, we sat by the fire, nursing our minor injuries. The room grew colder as Mr. Crawford recounted the tale of a mining disaster from the 1900s. The accident had claimed many lives, but the chilling part was that it wasn't an accident at all but a cover-up for something far more sinister. As night deepened, the winds carried eerie lullabies of the past. Shadows moved, whispers echoed, and figures from a century ago reenacted their final moments around the cabin. Their grief was palpable. Mia, an avid photographer, captured misty forms in her shots, indisputable proof of the paranormal. Using Mrs. Allen's research skills and a box of old newspaper clippings she had, we pieced together the dark truth. The mining company had known about the hazardous conditions but chose profits over safety. Armed with our newfound knowledge, we decided to honor the lost souls. Emma, aspiring to be a journalist, penned a heartfelt tribute to them, vowing to bring their story to light. Morning came, the spirits seemed calmer, perhaps feeling seen and acknowledged after a century of being forgotten. The Halloween of 2014 in the Phoenix suburb wasn't just a night of fun for us. It was a journey into history, a testament to the idea that the past, if not acknowledged, lingers in the shadows, waiting for its stories to be told. Story number 15. Whispers of San Diego's Past. 2015, a San Diego suburb. The haunting memories of that Halloween night are as vivid today as they were then. My friends and I, Tyler, Lucy, Aaron, and Sophie, were in our senior year. To celebrate, we had planned a late-night drive through the outskirts of our hometown. As Aaron was driving, a massive coyote darted in front of our car. Startled, he swerved, narrowly missing a tree. With the car damaged and the dark woods surrounding us, we felt a sense of unease. We stumbled upon an old log cabin by a mountain river, its facade masked by years of neglect. The scene was interrupted by Mr. Wilson, a retired archaeologist, who lived there with Ms. Ramirez, a historian. Seeing our plight, they kindly offered shelter. As Ms. Ramirez treated our minor wounds, tales of the past began to unfold. The land the cabin sat on was once a thriving Native American settlement, decimated by a sudden and mysterious calamity. As the clock struck midnight, the atmosphere shifted. The forest echoed with whispered chants and faint drumming. Ghostly apparitions danced around the cabin, retracing rituals of old. Sophie, an anthropology student, recognized some of the chants and realized that they were mourning songs. Lucy, always the brave one, ventured out with a recorder, managing to capture the ethereal voices. Using Mr. Wilson's vast archaeological knowledge and Ms. Ramirez's historical documents, we started to piece together the tragic events of the past. The settlement had been a peaceful community until a foreign disease, introduced inadvertently by early explorers, wiped out its inhabitants. Their spirits, it seemed, were tethered to the land, mourning their untimely demise and the loss of their culture. By dawn, Tyler, a budding filmmaker, had filmed the phenomena. We decided to document the story, combining our skills. Aaron and I researched the narratives further. Lucy secured interviews with tribal leaders to understand the chants better. Sophie analyzed the cultural significance, and Tyler captured it all on film. The next Halloween, we premiered our documentary, bringing the forgotten history of San Diego's suburb to light. The spirits' mourning had been a cry for recognition, and our film aimed to honor their memory. That night in 2015 forever changed our lives, teaching us the importance of understanding and respecting the past. For in the shadows of forgotten tales, linger spirits waiting for their stories to be retold.